Merriam's Online Academy. Today we will be learning Perfect by Ed Sheeran. To purchase a copy of the music that I'm using, feel free to follow the link in the description below. In this video, I'll be working through each section of the song, first at full speed, then at half speed, and giving you a few tips to help you learn the song. So I'm going to start off by playing the intro and a bit of verse number 1, ending right here. I'll do it at full speed first so you can hear how it goes, and then we'll break it down. So here we go. So let's stop right there. Now the first thing that I want to jump into, first of all, we have an F sharp in the key signature, so make sure that all your Fs are sharp all the way through the piece. And the second thing that I want to talk about is the left-hand chord progression in this piece. And it's actually been really nicely laid out for you on this piece. We've got the G chord first, then an E minor, a C, and a D. And I labeled the verse 1 as starting right here because there is a chord pattern of 2 bars per chord. So we have a really, really short introduction of just this G, 2 notes of the G chord, G and B, held for 2 bars. And then we jump right into the verse 1. And our left hand is playing these 2 notes of the G triad. So G and B 4 times, so over 2 bars. Then we're getting into the E minor chord. And the nice thing about knowing these chord names is it helps you figure out where your pinky finger goes, and then you can find these left-hand notes really, really quickly. So we're on the E minor chord here. This is on a 5th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We get that E minor 4 times. Then we're moving to a C chord, again in the 5th. So we've got C on our pinky, and we play that 4 times. And then we're on the D. We've got that pattern 4 times. So it's a really easy left-hand pattern to start out. We've got the G and the B here. We've got the E minor in a 5th, the C chord in a 5th, and a D chord in a 5th. And they each go for 2 bars. So that's the left hand, and then let's talk about the right hand. I should also probably briefly mention that we're in 6/8 time. So all of our left-hand notes were in dotted quarters, so they get 3 beats each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in that kind of a rhythm. 4, 5, 6, which if you know are really familiar with the song, you get that feel of the 6/8 for sure when you're listening. So the right hand part, if I jump in with the right hand, just right here, a lot of the right hand is in 8th notes and in groups of 3, and that's part of our 6/8 time signature. So we start out with, and I'm going to suggest a fingering right here. So I'm getting lots of colors on this page. And that is finger 3 on this G. It's going to set you up a lot better to play the rest of this melody line. It's really important when you're figuring out fingering that you look ahead to what's coming up next so that you make sure you're using a finger that will work for the upcoming notes as well. So let me do that one more time. So I'm on finger 3, and then, and here. So you see by putting finger 3 on that G, I was able to keep my hand really centralized. I didn't go any higher than this B, and all of the notes were right here, and it was very, very comfortable to play. So let me do that section for you one more time, hands together. I'm going to do it very, very slowly so that you can see how the 2 hands fit together. And the right hand rhythm makes a lot more sense when you have the left hand going along with it. So here's how that's going to start together, and I'm going to start from the blue arrow one more time. I did a little fingering switch to play that B. One other small thing I just wanted to point out right here is that we've got this E, and it's a long note value, and it holds all the way across. So I'm just going to play that bar again. Notice I'm still holding the E right to the end of that pattern, and then we keep going. So when I get into the next 8-bar section, once again, we have the exact same left hand pattern. So now I'm going to start here. And I'm going to play the next 8 bars for you, first at full speed, and then we'll break down those as well. But you'll notice some very, very similar patterns to what I just played. So. And if I flip the page, we're ending on this chord. So let's finish right there so we don't have to do this page turn. So you'll notice my left hand is in the exact same pattern again. I've got the G chord, the E minor in the fifths, and then the C chord, and then we'll flip to the next page in a moment. And then the right hand, so we're starting with finger 3 on this B. Instead of going down like we did in the opening pattern, we went up. So a little bit different melody. Now, right here, they've got a suggestion for fingering, and that is this finger 2 right here. And that is so you can land this chord comfortably. And that E stays for all of that pattern. So you want to make sure that you get that second finger on the G so that you can reach that C and E really, really well. So let's do that part really, really slowly, hands together, so you can see it, and then we'll move on to the next page. Up to the D this time. Switch your finger here. Reaching out. And there's the end of your first page. So let's jump into the second page. And I just want to finish this little bit of a section here. So we're going to go to there. So we're on the D chord to finish off that pattern. Now, right there, I didn't do the best fingering, so let's just figure this out for a second. So right here we've got this G, and then we're jumping up to this chord. So I'm going to suggest that you do a second finger here, and then 1 and 4 on this, so that you can reach your finger 5 on the E. So after this D chord, you go 2, 1 and 4, so you can go 5 here. One more finger, because of what's coming next. I would do your second finger there, like that. Let me just show you that one more time. So we're on the D chord. So finger 2, 1 and 4. And now we're into a new section. So the new section is called the pre-chorus. And first thing that we should take a look at is these left-hand chords again. And then I'm going to play this for you at full speed. We've got a little bit of variety there, but you'll notice same left-hand pattern, little bit of a different arrangement. So I'm going to stop right here so that you can get an idea for what's happening in this section. Let me do it full speed first. So there's your pre-chorus. So in my left hand, pretty simple. I've got the G tied, and that feels a typical pop type of a rhythm where you have 1, 2, 3, 4, short 8th note at the end of the bar. Now I'm on the E minor. Again, same rhythm. Now I'm on the C chord. Now we have something a little bit different here. We have a G over a D. So basically that's a G on the top, and a D as the bass note. So we have that twice, resolving to our D chord, which is what we had as the original chord. So that's just a little bit of a variety in the harmony, but keeping the same bass note, like that. So in our right hand here, we've got, and I'm going to suggest that after you do this part, you go to 1 and 4. So that's one more fingering I'm going to write in for the right hand. And if you do the 1 and the 4 there, again, it helps you to look ahead to what's coming up next. Keeps your hand in the same position. Notice you have a lot of B's here. Now, right here, we go up to the C. So that's where the 4 on the B is really helpful. And then, so finger 4 on the B through this whole section is really, really helpful. It's your main melody note, so that kind of keeps you anchored throughout the section. So let's hear this part one more time really, really slowly with both hands together. Now in the second part of the pre-chorus, so starting after the line that I've done, and let's go right to the end of the page. So we're going to start right here, and we're going to go till there. You're going to notice very, very similar. So let me play at full speed, and I don't know if I have to go into it in a lot of detail because it's pretty much exactly the same. So what do you notice here? We don't have the, we just have, so it's actually a little bit simpler to play because we don't have as much filler in the right hand. Although here, instead of the E minor or the E chord underneath, we have a D. So that's one small change. This bar, the same, except for the last note. And then the left hand, pretty much identical. Right, with that same quick note at the end of the bar. So let me just do that part one more time really, really slowly so you get a sense, and then we'll move on to the next page. So here the D underneath, the right hand, C chord. So let's move on to the next page and see what we have coming up next. So we have 2 bars left to basically finish this pre-chorus. We're on our D chord. We're actually tied from the notes that we had before. And then we've got a couple of 16th notes. So this is like the little grace note that he does when he's singing. So it's pretty fast. Goes like that. All right. And then we're into the chorus, which is the main tune. So let me play the first 8 bars of the chorus, and so that we get a sense for how that goes. So I'm going to stop right here, okay? And you're going to notice a little bit of a different left hand. So here it is at full speed. I should have added a little bit of one more bar. But anyway, let's talk about these left-hand chords. So now instead of 2 chords per bar, we have 1. It's the same 4 chords. It's still G's, D's, C's, and E minors, but in a different order. So we have E minor first this time, and only 1 bar per chord, changing right away to C. Lower G, D, back to the E minor, C, G, D. So that's the left-hand pattern. Changes up just a little bit from what you had in that we have 1 chord per bar and the same chords but in a different order. So let's take a look at the right hand. So we're starting here, then we've got a big jump up, little bit tricky on the fingering here. So you want finger 5 at the top there, but you do have to do a little hop right here to get to that G. Then we have the same melody again. Similar pattern, but it goes up. So let's do that really, really slowly, hands together. So we have the E minor, C, G pattern. Little hop in the fingering here. there's your first little bit of the chorus. So let's move on to the second half of the chorus, and I'll play basically till the end of the page, right, starting from after my line here, and you're going to notice some similarities once again. So if we break that down in the left hand, same chord pattern, E minor, C. Here we're doing that G over D again to the D pattern. So a little bit of variety there, E minor again, and then C pattern. So once again, in this section, and maybe I should have mentioned that a little bit earlier, but we have some of these held notes on the upper left hand. So that means that you hold the upper finger and just repeat the lower finger like that. Okay, so your thumb gets held and the bottom finger repeats. So anytime you see that notation, that's what that means. Right hand, very similar to what we had before with this pattern right here. A little bit of variety here. And then that's basically the chorus. So I'll just do it one more time really, really slowly. And then we're on to the next page. So let's take a look. We have 2 more bars here, and then we have a short interlude. So let's just split this up. So right here and right here. So we finish off the chorus with that G over D going to the D pattern, which is very similar to what we've had before. So let's talk about the interlude. So we have a short interlude here. Here's how it goes. We're into the verse 2. So in this pattern, we've got a right hand broken chords and a left hand descending pattern. So a couple of things to note with the fingering. In the left hand, you're going to want to start with your thumb, and then you just basically have a descending pattern to the C. And actually, let me add one more note, so I'll go right to here, ending on that D. In the right hand, what you're going to want to do, you've got a broken pattern. Is the first one. And then I like this fingering. So we start with finger 5 at the top here, and then I do 4 on this one, 3 on this one, and then you end up on finger 2 right there. So finger 5, 4, 3. Now between the 4 and the 3, the pattern is just down 1 note. So we have this one, ending on finger 2. So together that looks like this. And then finger 4, finger 3. Yeah. So although it might look a little bit more challenging on that part, it's actually a fairly simple pattern if you break it down and use a good fingering with the 5, 4, 3 at the top and down to finger 2. So now we're into verse 2, which is going to have a very, very similar tune to what you had at the beginning. And we're also back to, and actually, sorry, I should have drawn this yellow line right here because that's the start of our new chord pattern. So we're back to having those chords every 2 bars with the G and then starting over. The tune of the song is very similar to what you had at the beginning. And I find in general with pop songs, sometimes you can use your ear to decide on the melody lines. It doesn't always have to be exactly what's on the page. So the rhythm of the right hand has to do with the lyrics of the song. And if you hear the lyrics a certain way, you can play the melody in that way, just using the notes as a guideline. As long as you have the full number of beats in each bar, you have the flexibility of mixing up the rhythm a little bit. Now you'll notice here on the verse 2, although our melody line is very, very similar, our lyrics are a little bit different, so sometimes the rhythm is slightly changed, but the left hand has a new pattern. So I'll play the first 4 bars of this section. So I'm going to end right here, or sorry, the first 8 bars, with that 4-chord pattern, and so you can see how that goes. So we've changed up the left hand to be similar to what we had in that pre-chorus, where we have that 8th note at the end of the bar, like this. And then we've got our 5ths again, but just in the full bar and the D. So I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on the verse number 2 because it's very, very similar to the verse number 1. You just want to be aware that the left-hand chord pattern has changed up slightly. And again, feel some freedom to play around with the right-hand melody if you feel that you hear it a little bit differently than what's on the page. All right, so we're just going to finish off the verse number 2, and then I'll show you there's some repeats, so then we're going to talk through those. So at the top of the page here, we're continuing with our same chord pattern, the E minor, the C, and the D. So this would sound like this. Now once again, a little bit of fingering. I didn't do some ideal fingering in there, so we should kind of work that out. So the left hand though, tied all the way across both bars, 2 C chords, 3 D chords. So pretty straightforward. We're back to that 5th accompaniment. So in the right hand, we've got a little bit of variety than what we had in the first verse. Now right here, I think it's better if you go to finger 2. Again, you want to look ahead to what you're going to. So that's a good fingering there. So if you keep second finger here, that works really well. And then here, you're going to want to switch to finger 2. Actually, go to 4 here because you've got that E coming up next. So right here. So feel free to write these fingerings in, and that'll help you a lot at home with making sure that you feel comfortable playing it and you're able to maneuver around some of these jumps. So let's look at that really, really slowly one more time. Switch to 2. Keep the 2. Here, 1 and 4. Now we have a big repeat, and I'm not going to play what I played earlier. I'm just going to show you where it goes back to. So we have this sign right here, this DSL Coda. So we are going to look for the sign that looks like this. It's almost like looks like a dollar sign, but it's got a couple of dots on it. Okay, so we're going to flip back in the song, page 4, page 3, page 2, and right at the start of the pre-chorus, we have that sign. So that's where you would repeat back to if you're going to play the full version of the song. And then you move forward again. So page 3, page 4, we have this little sign right here that says to the coda. So you play page 2, page 3, the top of page 4, and then you're going to skip ahead to the coda. So the coda is right here. So let's work through the coda, and then we're done with the song. So the beginning of the coda sounds like... Sound familiar? It's a lot like the chorus, with again, a few slight variations in what's happening. So to start it out, right at the beginning of the coda, we had our D major for 2 bars right here. I'm gonna, again, give you a couple of fingering suggestions for the right hand. We've got a 1 and, I'm gonna change that. Let's do a 1 and a 3, going to a 4, going to a 5. So then actually right here at the end, we're going to go 4, 3, 5, 4, 3. Let me do that bar again where I've written all this green fingering. So 1 and 3 to 4, 5, 4, 3. So we've got the same left-hand chord pattern. This is exactly the same as the chorus right here. New left-hand pattern right here. So I'm going to show you again another fingering. So the left hand, I'm starting right here. We've got a D sharp. So we're going to put finger 4 there. This is going to be 1. And then you can reach 1 and 3 on this left-hand pattern. Let's take a look at that again. 1, 4, 1 and 3. 4, 1 and 5, and that works perfectly. Right hand has a similar melody. I'll start on the same arrow that you've had earlier in this song. Same as the chorus. This 1 and 4 again, so you can reach that E. And that's how the coda goes. So we've got one more page here. We'll just go through it pretty briefly. Because what you're going to find is you get repeats of the same thing over and over. This is common in a pop song. They repeat the same lyrics a few times and gradually wind the song down. So let me just play the full coda for you at full speed, and then we'll just take a look at a couple of small things. So I'm starting right at the top of the page. So you'll notice here that starting at the top of the page, the left hand gradually winds down in the rhythm. We're in the dotted quarters. And then we switch on the C chord so that it's held for the full bar. And that helps the song kind of wind down. So that's one of the things. And then the right hand just gradually winds down. And I find starting around this, kind of around this C chord is where we get a repeat. The melody is slightly different, and the chords are slightly different, just in the arrangement, but it is very, very similar in there. And then, I don't know if you noticed this section here, if that was familiar at all, but this is exactly the same as the interlude that we had earlier in the song, so you'll play it exactly the same. So that's Perfect by Ed Sheeran. Be sure to check out my other videos on Perfect. I've got a pro tips one and a full performance video, as well as other videos on our channel.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching Merriam's Online Academy. Check back here for more videos and don't forget to subscribe below.